good evening, and welcome to the Positions on Sports Talk Show post, live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Position on Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, and by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topic in sports. My name is Edward J, and I am joined this evening by my brothers from another. How are you doing this evening, J3?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Feeling good. What's up, fellas? Are y'all ready to get this in?
We
We
ready to rock
ready.
and
Let's get
roll.
it. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Let's do this.
Professor, I see you out there styling and profiling. What's up?
What's going on, Ed? What's up, fellas? Yeah, I'm channeling my inner Kaepernick right now because we gonna bring it hard. I mean, he's one of my people that brung it in 2021. If y'all haven't seen his Netflix special, please do. But I'm ready to hit it, y'all. Let's go.
Brother Sense, I see you being cool, calm, and collected over there. What's going on this evening?
You know how I do. What's going on, Big Ed? What's going on, fellas?
You.
Once again, it's on another day to talk some sports. Let's get it.
Let's
Good,
go.
good. I just want to send a quick shout out to my brother Reg, Big Reg. You know, everybody need a little break sometime. Enjoy yourself tonight. Jay Wills, miss you, brother. So anyway, as we close out 2021, we have decided to stay true to our claim and bring you what, in our opinion, individually and collectively, were the most important or groundbreaking stories in the world of sports. And please, we also would like for you to chime in. Let us know how you feel, what you feel was worthy of being remembered from 2021. But again, like we say, opinions, this is just purely our opinions. So, you know, what we feel is important and worth noting. So let's go around this virtual table and get this thing started. So I think to just put it out there, I think we can't get around COVID. No matter how hard we try, it's just a part of our lives, and
That's right.
and by default, it's a part of the sports world. So obviously, I feel that COVID was probably number one, as far as importance and the effect it's had in the world of sports. So just to get that out the way. But I think for me, the most, I don't want to say important, but actually I will say important. And I think of it because a lot of times when we start talking about sports on our show, we usually are a step ahead of most people. And I go back to March when we had Dr. Jenkins on, and we were talking about mental health. And I think that how this relates to sports was we saw it play out with Naomi, and we also saw in the Olympics Simone.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't think this was definitely not the first time that mental health, you know, reared its head in the world of sports. But I think these two particular incidents was impactful for me was that it gave the athletes a sense of empowerment during the actual competition that they individually was taking place, was actually participating in. So for me, what do you guys feel about the mental health aspect of athletes and how it impacted sports this past year?
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. And I think that it's something that, you know, widespread, mainstream wasn't spoken of enough. And you know, I'm gonna just be quite frank when I address this, because when we have certain athletes such as your Michael Phelps, for number one, that says something about it or sheds light on it, everybody wants to pay attention. But then the vitriol and criticism that came to some of our other athletes who are just as well known, who are just as accomplished, you know, the vitriol that came down on them, should I say mildly, it was perfectly unfair. And I think that shedding more light on it, not just us, but other people, other outlets, other folks that are passionate about these issues, we're bringing something to the mainstream that people generally want to sweep under the rug. It's like if you have problems and you're African American or whatever, it's like these are heightened things. You got issues, it's looked at a negative slant. But when you really unpack the things from a human perspective and you allow people to see inside of what makes you tick and what has put you in that position, I think that we all need to sit back and kind of listen to how these athletes are expressing, because they're on a stage that we don't have. So the problems that they have may be like ours, but they have to deal with them in a totally different fashion because they're in the limelight. So I know we're going to talk about this more later, but I think the slant that's placed on it needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed today.
I agree. And just to speak on it on that more broader scope, I feel it showed their human side. It showed that, they're just like us, and it's even harder for them because they're under more scrutiny. They're under the microscope. And, the media has a way of kind of being the detriment to them because, anything they go through, even though it was, of a personal nature, it might have been something that they might have been dealing with personally, the media is going to take that and then blow it up and then, misconstrue it, of course. And then that, just makes that athlete feel more misunderstood and even bring about a more dangerous situation. So for the athlete to tell their story and say, hey, look, this is what I'm going through, if it can help somebody else, my story, then so be it. So I feel like them, kind of letting us into their lives, definitely helped, just in the grand scheme of things.
It's funny you actually talk about this, Ed, because this was one of the topics that I was going to bring up about COVID. And of course, we've been talking about this now for the last 3 years. And putting a spin on mental health was definitely inspirational, but it was also real talk. But now you got to look at the flip side, and you got to look at the stupidity that's going on. Why is it that they are still having multiple games, whether it's football, basketball, tennis, hockey, golf, you name it. And when you look at the cameraman and he spans the audience, you still have 3/4 of individuals not wearing masks. I just don't understand it. I mean, again, this is something that we've been dealing with for the last 3 years. And we literally talked about it when it first kicked off and how bad it was going to be. We didn't know it was going to last this long, but we knew that it was going to be very impactful for not only the United States, but also overseas. But yet we're still acting like the pandemic is not live. And that's a problem. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And so when you have individuals who don't want to get vaccinated, to me, that's just mind blowing, because not only are you putting yourself at risk, but you're putting everybody else at risk who have taken the precautions to ensure that they're protecting themselves the best way they can.
You guys made a very key point, since in J3. And I often think about it from both perspectives, because if I'm a player today and, I believe in getting vaccinated, but then I have players that don't. And then I'm also dealing with the rigors of trying to protect myself, protect my family, my community. And you bring that mental health aspect into it. I'm coming into work with those things on my mind, which would then affect my performance, which would then cause the pundits on television, writing, whatever, to come after me. Then the fans are coming after me. Then you have this snowball effect because of all of this that's coming on. And to Sense's point, you have a lot of athletes that would speak, but the scrutiny makes them pull back and not want to say anything. And what they don't realize is that it would help a lot of people if they were able to speak freely.
And it's fun. It's interesting, Sense and Professor, that you mentioned that the scrutiny behind speaking up. But I felt that these athletes are finally taking control of the narrative, because because one thing I know, that if you let someone else write your narrative or speak on your narrative, speak about you, then they're going to write what they want to write, and 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be in a good light. And I'm just so proud of all these athletes that have come out and spoken up about this mental health. And we don't have to have a Jennifer Capriati. We don't have to have a Todd Marinovich, or heaven forbid, the Junior Seau's and the Chris Henrys,
Right,
and those type of where it's too late. You can't. It's too late, and their actions lead to death.
But
and like
real quick, but that only works for some. If I'm LeBron James, yeah, I can control my narrative. But if I'm a lesser athlete, I got all these people piling on me if I even try to get a word out edgewise, because I'm not as glorified as some of the other athletes. And to me, that's why some of the lesser known athletes will deal with these things quietly and won't say anything.
I think that's changing though.
Yeah, and I hope it is. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Sense, but I hope it is, and that's interesting you bring that up, because I think by destigmatizing it and people having more compassion to understand that there is pressure associated with these type of jobs, not just these type of jobs, regular jobs like I have. I mean, like you have. I mean, there is pressure no matter what level of income or notoriety you may be experiencing. What were you saying, Sense?
No, I was just going to say, I think it's changing. And it's because of people like LeBron James, like who have given, like, kind of made it more comfortable for athletes to, control their own narrative to the chagrin of, these pundits. But who cares? It has made it more. It's given them freedom to be like, okay, well, if he did it, if he can, write his own narrative and say, hey, this is A and not B, why can't I? So, I think that's, that it's kind of making that, positive turn.
It still boils down to power and influence, though. And LeBron has it miles more. Other athletes have it miles more than other people. I'm just thinking as an average person in my industry, just because somebody like huge in ministry or education did something, that doesn't mean that I can follow suit and do the same thing and get the same results that they do. And then we're talking about voice. So a lot of people just look at it differently, that I might be able to play on the same playing field as you, but when it comes to me using my voice and then being real personal about it, about myself, you have more of a buffer than I do because of your status. I just believe status plays into it as well.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. I think it can influence it in a positive way too, but yeah, I see your point.
All right. So, Sense, what did you feel? What do you leave as we leave 2021? What was important to you as far as what stood out in 2021?
What stood out to me was just how one can make the game change forever. And when I speak about that, I'm speaking more specifically about Steph Curry. This was, to me, the year of Steph. Like,
Steph Curry,
this man came and it's a positive story too, because he came in not highly touted, short, not the tallest, he was a scrawny little kid, but the dude, he could shoot a little bit. And then he took that shoot a little bit to a shoot a lot of bit. And he changed the whole NBA. And to, break a record in the shortest amount of time is impressive to me. And the fact that you, even without your key people on the squad, has them at the top of the, probably with the best record. Yeah, it's the best record in the NBA right now. Just you by yourself. That just speaks to who you are as a player, a leader. You're changing the game. You got little kids out here now trying to shoot, threes from the parking lot. And, they see it can be done now because Steph did it. So that's what stood out to me.
Steph Curry is a prime example that if you work hard enough, anything is possible. Plain and simple.
I found, so when you mentioned this, that this was important to you, and you felt that Steph was your main thing in 2021, we actually spoke about this a little bit a few weeks ago when we were mentioning, and you just brought it up, how this man has totally made small ball normal ball. Remember, it used to be, the team is going small ball. Well, they only went small ball in the first place because of Steph and the Golden State Warriors. But now it's not even considered small ball. It's just how teams assemble their rosters.
The game has changed. The game has changed.
He's totally changed the game.
Now you got to have to shoot. Now you got to have to know how to shoot the three, or else you're going to get like.
And that's whether you're 6'3" or 7'3".
Absolutely.
But I dug a little. I went and did a little research on this. So Steph had run back-to-back MVPs, right? This year, he's never averaged more points than he is averaging this year by a full 2 points. Now, some people say, "Oh, that's 2 points." But that's from 30 points a game in his first MVP season up to 32, which would be a record. That would be a career high if he maintained this. Now,
real quick, excuse me, Ed, real quick. Breaking news: Big Reg just stated that John Madden passed away.
Oh
so,
man, we're talking about
and that special. That special was phenomenal. I don't know if y'all saw it. That special on Saturday. It was outstanding.
I gotta watch that.
Okay, so I got to get back to John Madden because if you're talking about someone who changed the game, the game. They don't even call video games; they just call it Madden. But getting back to Steph, so his assists went down slightly by 1, steals slightly down, and pretty much that's it. Everything else has been maintained. And as far as his assists going down, you kind of expect it because he's the one man band at this point in time. So, hey, and we all know this, but for Sense to say Western Conference rival, a nemesis of the Lakers, so to speak, it was his most
saying a lot.
That's saying a lot, man. I appreciate
it.
Are y'all done with Steph? I'm just waiting.
What's up? So, Professor J, what's going on?
I'm not taking any flowers away from Steph because I like him. I like what he's done, how he's transcended the game. But we got to give love and the flowers to the Greek Freak and how he has also transcended the game. Yes. How he has done something that hadn't been seen in 50 years in the city of Milwaukee. How he went when he first came in the league and he transcended not only his body, but his entire game to today's NBA. And now you can't even sleep on him on the 3-point line. 3 years ago, we were getting on him like, what is he doing? But he obviously worked on that craft. You just talked about big man got to be able to shoot in and outside. Giannis has done that, and he's brought a title back to Milwaukee. I think when you're multiple times MVP, multiple times Defensive Player of the Year, you have put a nucleus around you, a team that, remember, he didn't run. He didn't do the big three. I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. He ain't do none of that stuff. He allowed his city to be cultivated and his team to be molded around him. And he put together that hadn't been seen in a very long time. He is homegrown. So please give him his love. Yes, did somebody say AD? Oh, man.
Said that. J3 said that. But look. I raised my hand because I'm going to step out there. I'm going to put myself further out there. Speaking about Steph and Giannis, all of this staying in one spot, not moving from team to team. Right. They stay loyal to the soil.
Yeah, but think about it. If y'all really pay attention to sports, how many athletes actually stay with one team throughout their duration? Most players, hip hop, they go from team to team because they chasing something. They're not chasing a dynasty. And Steph Curry and Giannis are doing exactly that. They're continuing to stay with the team so they can build that dynasty. And that makes all the difference in the world.
And with that difference, it took a team to say, we want you to stay and we're going to give you some power. We're going to build around you. Build around you. Thank you.
Okay, so you guys are NBA fans, obviously. You could just it permeates through you how you speak. Do you think that J3 just mentioned that because Giannis stayed there, he stayed true to him and his city and his team and his teammates? Do you feel that a player such as LeBron, that ultimately this will hurt his legacy because he has bounced around the league? Not he did it in a volunteer way, but nevertheless. But nevertheless, he bounced around. Do you think this would the narrative on him versus say the narrative on like a Steph or a Giannis? Do you think it would be different, say 20 years from now, or that
Only
makes
No, I
it
in
mean
different?
one
because
I'm
part
gonna
of
area.
say
that.
no.
Part,
I'm gonna say no only
yeah,
because of the fact that he's gone to different franchises and he's been able to take them to playoffs and win championships. So that
yeah,
that makes a difference because you
and
look
part
at
of yeah,
hold on. You look at players like Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, Jason Kidd. All these players went to multiple teams, but they didn't win no championships
Jason Kidd
no.
did.
Well, yeah, with Dallas.
Yeah,
with
Jason
Dallas,
Kidd
right?
won.
But he started out with New Jersey
Hmm.
and then went to
Right.
Dallas. So again, he rotated. He didn't stay with a particular team. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, part of that with LeBron hopping, it wasn't solely his fault. It was the team because the team couldn't do what they like. Cleveland, like Dan Gilbert and the boys, couldn't do what they needed to do
That was all
to build
LeBron.
it
I
up.
ain't letting you get away with that. That was all
Are you
LeBron.
serious?
Dude, he did a
Okay.
decision. He did a come on. You about to debate that with me? LeBron
Right.
had control of every one of his destinies. Every choice that he's made
You didn't
was
let me
LeBron.
finish, bro.
Yeah.
LeBron.
You
I'm
didn't let
just
me. I was
saying.
gonna say
I'm
though,
just saying.
he finished out his contracts though. He didn't just say, "Oh, I want to trade." He waited until he was a free agent, made his decision, and then moved from there. So I mean, he is
Yeah,
loyal to
that's
someone.
not debatable. But the fact
Yeah.
is, that's how a man such as his status can have an ESPN special and talk about where he's going because he had that pedigree, he had that clout in order to do it. And I'll just say it only hurts his legacy in one aspect when you want to talk about the GOAT. That's it.
Mm,
Everything else, he's secure.
Mm.
mm.
Winning 3 titles with 3 teams. That's
Yeah, but he
something.
lost a lot too. We can't ignore what
True.
he's lost along that
Oh
process
yeah,
as
four
well.
and
But we're
six. I
talking
mean,
about dynasties though. So let's stay focused on that. We're talking about individuals who stay with teams to build dynasties.
Well, it doesn't
yeah.
happen. It's rare. It's rare in,
I mean,
in
Golden
today's.
State. I mean, shoot, they about to make another run. I mean, it looks like with another dynasty, like it was like the Bulls did back in the day.
So Jamal, so Professor, what stood out for you?
Well, outside, you talking about NBA or you talking about overall?
What happened in 2021 that you
Thanks,
feel
Reg.
is
Oh, certainly for me, it was what we discussed last. That's the resurgence of Tiger Woods and his son Charlie. To be able
Mm.
to see and witness not only him being in good health, he's still recovering, obviously physically, but to be back on the golf course and not just showing up, but actually competing in a golf tournament, one of the majors, and doing it with his son. And we mentioned how his son has all of his mannerisms. His
mhm.
son is picking up right where he's proverbially leaving off. So it was like a passing of the torch, even though his son is
DJ.
still very young. But it's one of the best stories, one of the most touching stories. I mean, this is a chapter in his book that whether you like Tiger or not, it is something that you can look at it and say this was a very triumphant chapter in his book, really passing the torch or the golf club off to his son. So I think being a witness of that and really taking that to heart. I mean, if you have a pulse, then that's something that really should resonate with you. So for
Oh, for
me,
sure.
having that fresh, just a couple of weeks ago, is something that really made my year in sports.
It just speaks to the grander theme of sorry, it just speaks to the
No, no,
grander
no.
theme of rewriting the narrative, and I think Tiger has done that with this new chapter. And it's like when a lot of people had him pretty much done for. Tiger was like, not just yet. Watch
But
this.
it's and it's also like it's like a great reclamation project, so to speak, because Tiger burst on the scene, and won the Masters. What was it? The 97 Masters he won.
97.
97 Masters he won. He was the darling. He was the darling of the sports world, and obviously he went. He was chasing Jack. He was chasing championships, but no one knew what was lurking in the grass, so to speak. Then he had a little. Then he had some adversity, plenty of adversity, culminating even up until the earliest part of this year. The crash, like you mentioned, it could easily. We could not have Tiger right now. I mean, very very easily could not have him. And just to see him, as you mentioned, Professor, with his son it's like he has transitioned, and it's okay just to be just a regular. I mean, Tiger probably he'll never be a regular dude, so to speak, but in a sense, when you look at him, you can relate. Most people have had some adversity in their lives. Most people, but what's better than seeing a man and his son, and he's like he seems like he's more comfortable in his skin. I guess that's what I take away from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So real quick, I want to give a shout out to BJ, aka Jerome, who's retiring
Salute,
from the federal
BJ.
government.
Congratulations.
One of my previous supervisors a couple years ago. Well-respected man, and I appreciate all the guidance and mentorship that you provided to me. I know you're going to do great things in retirement, and just do what you want to do, man, because you definitely deserve it and enjoy yourself.
But whatever you do not get Pittsburgh Steelers season tickets.
And your Clippers still
Congratulations, BJ.
Congratulations, BJ.
Congratulations,
Clippers still
homie.
suck, though.
Yes, sir.
So, but speaking of this year, this was a very interesting year, though, because if you look at the major sports that we talk about and most people follow in this country, every championship that existed this year, not even taking into account the cloud of or the COVID, and all the challenges that presented itself with. But in golf, you had a 50-year-old major winner, the oldest man ever to win a major, Phil Mickelson. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, Kumpo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He led Milwaukee to their first championship since 1971.
In 50 years.
Yeah.
Kareem's an old man now. That's the last time they even tasted victory.
And was he even Kareem then? Was it Lou Alcindor? I think it was Lou Alcindor. Yeah. So that man, that's special. Yeah.
The Braves, 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
26 years in the making. They finally tasted victory again. Unfortunately, they lost they lost the greatest player ever
Hammer and Hank
ever to play in a Braves uniform, and Hank Aaron died in January of this year. The NHL, we had the Lightning. They repeated again.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks, first they win Super Bowl 55 with an old man, Tom Brady. So the championships that were being won this year was just crazy.
Big Reg got Canelo up there.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan finally beat Ohio State.
Oh no! Here we go.
I'm just saying.
So, Big Reg mentioned Canelo.
Mm-hmm.
That was his most memorable thing coming out of 2021. How would you guys size up Canelo's year?
Got to give him props because of the different weight classes that he's endured. I mean, he's a fighter that's not scared to alter his physique so that he can come to you and bring it to you at the end of the day.
And his raking in of dough. He's like the new Floyd now. Like he started promoting himself. He got the network that he does his fighting on. I mean, he's definitely had a hold on the boxing game for, aside from Bud, for a while. So definitely salute to him.
Yeah, you got to give him his props, because if you roll back the tape from the last couple of years and some of the criticisms that we've placed at his feet, I think that he's handled a lot of those over the last couple of years.
Sound like he's streaming.
Okay. All right. So, as far as Canelo is concerned, I'm not an expert in boxing, but I will say this: as far as his accomplishments, you can't argue with him. But I will say I don't know anybody he fought. I like nobody he fought this year. Like I had to watch that fight. So that's my only issue with Canelo. And I think that there seems to be like a disconnect. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there seems to be a disconnect between the star power of, say, a Floyd, because if you think about it, Canelo has done everything he possibly could in the sport, including fighting Floyd
Mayweather. Yep.
at a very young age. Clearly, he wasn't going to win that fight. Was no way he was going to win that fight. But yet he put himself in the arena, and that's all you can ask for. But again, I just wish that there was. I mean, maybe there's no one else for him to fight. Maybe he's cleared out everything.
That was going to be my next question.
Really
who
no
should he
else.
fight?
Who should move up to fight him? I mean, because I would argue that Big A would say Triple G was definitely a draw. A lot of people was like, thought that Triple G was like, oh man, this is the dude that you don't want to go against. But Canelo went up against him twice and beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the first one was a draw, but the second one he beat him.
So another thing for me as far as 2021 is so I said COVID was obviously the ruler of the day. I said the mental health stigma, and I think it was finally broken and allowed athletes to talk about it. But also, I think for me, my love in sports unquestionably is college football. Unquestionably. And I think there was 3 things that occurred within the college football game that we are already seeing the impacts now, but I think moving forward, it's totally going to alter the sport. Number 1, first and foremost, is the name, image, and likeness. I think now that these athletes are allowed to profit off of their, themselves, I believe that, you have college athletes making millions of dollars now. So they finally took the charade, quit playing games. In a sense, they have admitted that it is a professional sport, and now that it's, at least on the Division I level, you're starting to see these athletes benefit from this. Number 2 is the transfer portal. Before this transfer portal, how it's currently constructed, these athletes literally had to get permission from their school to go to specific places, and these coaches would block these athletes from going, say, within conference, within a division. And so I think that right there, and the transfer portal literally has totally altered the game. It's actually another extension of a recruiting. And actually, it's actually better than recruiting high school kids, because at least what you're getting. If these kids can play. High school athletes, just like college athletes going into the pros, you just never know how they're going to respond to competition and to step up. And then finally, coaching movement. I was
just about to say, speaking of transfer,
but it was hypocrisy though, sense, because prior, it was like the coaches could move left and right, and these kids would be stuck. They don't want to be there, but they would literally be stuck because, they couldn't get released from their scholarship. So you have these coaches signing $90 million contracts. Since that's your boy Brian Kelly, he fled.
Your boy.
Brian Kelly. You have Lincoln Riley. You have these coaches signing these $100 million, $90 million contracts, and it's finally. I'm finally glad that these college kids could actually profit, breaking a little bit of that money, and not just the coaches benefit from it.
Yeah.
Well, for me in that area, here's the reckoning that I tend to struggle with. And I'm glad that I think it was Big Reg or someone from our team mentioned Coach Prime.
That was me.
J3. So what he is doing now is he is changing the landscape. Eddie George, Tennessee State also
Hugh
comes
Jackson
to mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have other prominent, future Hall of Famers, all pros that are coming now into the coaching ranks, and they're saying, I'm going to take an HBCU job, and we start to see some of that NIL, sponsorships, things going, to HBCUs. And I wish I was in every living room right now of every potential recruit. Now that your child looks like us, are you more apt to start shoveling them out to predominantly white schools or bigger schools, Power 5 schools, or are you now saying Let's now send our child to an HBCUs. It goes without a doubt they're going to get a quality education. So let's just put that on the table. Now that you have athletics that are now increasing now, the major sports at HBCUs, they're now pulling in more dollars. You just saw Coach Prime pull the #1 and #2 recruit in the country to Jackson State. Now we need to start thinking how we're going to change the landscape of what's happening in our communities as well as where we send our schools. So if you don't like the way the game has been played before, now it's time to put our money seriously where our mouth is and where we're actually going to send our kids, because now the cameras are going to the HBCUs now. So you'll get the scholarship, you'll get the NIL, you'll get the exposure, they'll get into the NFL, NBA, or what have you. So now we're taking away the excuses of our parents who are saying you got to go to this bigger school. So when you start seeing the landscape changing, for me, 2021 has been a reckoning for college football and HBCUs as a whole. And I just think we need to really keep paying attention to that.
I agree. And I'll just say it's definitely made the playing field even now, especially with the flip of, now a couple of players, because it wasn't just Hunter. I think it was another player as well. But in the grand scheme of things, it's no more about the Power Five. It's now, okay, we need to, put our attention toward, these HBCUs and, because in these programs, because I mean, it's not a secret. Like, some of the greatest players of all time have come from HBCUs.
Jerry Rice,
Walter Payton, Shannon Sharp. Like, the list goes on and on. So you can't ignore that. And now I'm glad more attention is going to be put on HBCUs now.
I know when the young man, when he signed with Jackson State on signing day, he said something that resonated with me, and you just mentioned it, Professor. But it's the experience, because a lot of times, people look at the academics of the school, they look at the sports teams of the schools, but the experience is a key component of college, I believe.
Yes.
And I believe that, are you comfortable? Are you welcomed? See, that's a key. Have you ever walked into some place, whether it was a store, a job, or arena, and you just didn't feel comfortable?
Yeah.
And it's whether we like it or not, racism exists, biases exist, and so I just think that I want to see these HBCUs thrive, and you know what? But like I said, and some college coaches get it. Like, I remember they asked Nick Saban, they was like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this guy flipping and Dion getting this player? And Coach Saban, he's smart. He was like, I like making commercials with Dion, and he left it alone because he sees the writing on the wall, and all these administrators see the writing on the wall. And you know what, Professor, I will go as far as to say that's one of the reasons that they fought so hard against this NIL, because they do not want the playing field to be level. Because, like I said, you said,
right?
It's not just you got to take away. Well, you're not going to be seen. Well, you have more than 3 networks now. You can I could turn on a football game right now, probably.
Yeah.
And that's with all the cancellations with COVID. But so that's very key. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Also keep in mind that Coach Prime is actually advocating for all HBCUs, not just Jackson State.
Right.
He's making sure that these players are getting looked at so they can go to the next level. Because when we look at these drafts, we don't see players getting drafted from HBCUs. So he's their voice. He's making sure that they're getting not only heard about, but seen as well, so that they have an opportunity to go to the next level.
Right. And that's why I need that coach. Was it at South Carolina State? I think it was. Like, now that we starting to make some inroads here, we don't need the black on black crime. Leave Dion alone. You got a story program over there. Let him do his work, because I ain't hear you advocating for all HBCUs. So that's kind of that left a bad taste in my mouth, him throwing a shot or shade at Dion. So we need to kind of pipe that down.
Well, that's the problem. Well, there you go. Since that I couldn't have said it better myself.
But that's what I'm saying. We got to knock that off. We got to knock it off.
Yeah, well, a microphone is a dangerous tool. A microphone and a camera, when you add a camera into it, in addition to a microphone, it's a dangerous tool. You won the game. Just keep it moving.
Yeah, why couldn't that be enough? Right, exactly.
Yeah, you got to win with class too.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of class, let's also give a shout out to Coach Dawn Staley, because she has been doing her thing for the last couple of years, and
Absolutely.
even though it's not a HBCU school that she's teaching at or coaching at, she's still bringing the noise on the court, and she's making that sport more viable to young ladies who are trying to strive in the WNBA by going to college. So shout out to Coach Dawn Staley.
Absolutely. There was one point I wanted to bring up of an honorable mention, I would say, that was a highlight in 2021, and I think it was like the train wreck that was these other fights. It seems like we were just paying to watch anything, like the emergence of a Jake Paul and him fighting these.
You heard what Dana White said to him today, right?
Was that?
He said he'll allow him to cocaine test him for the next 10 years if he allows him to test him for steroids for the next 10 years. So basically, it's been said that Paul is on that juice.
And then I just don't like that, like, athletes in other sports have now migrated to boxing, like a Darren Williams and a Frank Gore. I don't want to see, even though, it was, I won't even say it was entertaining, because, it was just like, why? It was kind of like celebrity boxing, but a more bootleg version. So that's another thing that caught my eye in 2021. It's like this dude just got huge paydays from fighting, like, I won't say has-beens, but like UFC people who weren't in boxing and like full on and fully in boxing, and has raked in dough from it. And I'm like, how and why?
But since why do we as sports fans, why do we watch this stuff? Why do we support this stuff? Like, is it sports fans that are supporting this, or are we just looking for different avenues of entertainment?
I'm thinking boredom.
All of the above.
Sure, like,
it's definitely all of the above.
And how did that come about? Boxing doesn't generally give us the fights that we want to see. Yep. That's number one. Yeah. So people are filling that in with some of these gimmicks, and it's making money. Snoop jumped in on it. You got other people jumping in on it. So it's like, if the money is there, you're going to have people that are going to perpetuate this stuff. But real sports fans, we see through it, and it gets kind of irritating at times.
Yeah, but you keep in mind, where did all this start from? When Floyd Mayweather started boxing whomever, right? And then next thing you know, you had celebrities trying to get in the ring.
Yeah. It actually started with WWE though.
Well, and I think that's somewhat into this like this boxing that we see now. It's like boxing / wrestling.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment.
I think that's where we're going. It's going to the entertainment side, and it's tainting the sportsmanship side of it.
So getting back to J3, you mentioned how the impact that COVID was having, but you also, we had a little private conversation, and I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's because again, we've been mentioning COVID pretty much now, going on starting year 3, and we're seeing like an uptick recently of all these bowl games and college football being canceled. People going on the COVID list. The CDC coming out with recommendations. We're going back to mask. All this stuff is going on right now. Mm-hmm. But I found something that was of note concerning the NFL. So this is Monday. This past Monday on the 27th. 521 NFL players tested positive in December. 521, right? Mm-hmm. But 476 since December 13th. So get that. So in 2 weeks, 476 players tested positive for COVID. 476. Last year during the 2020 season, when they were more, when there was no fans and they were truly practicing social distancing, a total of 428 for the entire season was on the COVID list. So
Well,
in 2 weeks, we had 476. The entirety of last year, 428. What's going
Well,
on, fellas?
you already know it's individuals being careless.
Careless,
Again,
reckless.
when you look at these different events, and you have cameramen spanning the entire event, 3/4 of the individuals that are there, and it's probably the percentage is probably 90% are not wearing masks. Now I get it if you're eating or you're drinking, yeah, of course you're not going to have a mask on, but these individuals ain't doing neither of the sort. They're just out
No.
there having fun. They're out there hee ha ha rubbing elbows with the next person, and they're not being considered. Let's go ahead, Jamani.
I was just gonna say, if you want me to hit the post takes, I got your answer right up in there. But you in control, so you just let me know.
Well, first of all, we already know it's all about the money. They're not
Mm-hmm.
concerned about the individuals that's in the stands, and it's
Basically,
sad.
basically,
Right.
Yeah,
basically.
they trying to make their revenue for what they
Thank
lost
you.
from the year
That's
before.
what it's about, and we've been saying that since day one. Since day one, it's about the money first and foremost. This is
Yep.
why they will not reverse closing their arenas because they want to conclude their seasons and they want to make sure they recoup as much of that revenue from last year as they can. It's across
Absolutely.
all sports.
Yep.
Absolutely,
There it
absolutely.
is. There it is.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if I just think that they could be. I just think that they could do more. You see, it seems that the NHL is probably right now seemingly doing the best right now. Baseball, they're not in season right now, so they're happy about that. I'm sure. Um,
But we didn't touch on it. But that strike or that closeout they in right now, lockout they in right now, could loom pretty large going into 22.
Something to watch out for.
that's true. All right. Well, tell you what. Let's do these post takes, Professor. You got something for us today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great segue on the point that you just made because we're talking about revenue. So I entitled this week, fellas and ladies out there, follow the money during the pandemic. So Exhibit A, NFL, they lost 4 billion last year. Major League Baseball lost 3 billion last year. And I'm saying billion, not million. Exhibit C, Premier League. These are the soccer clubs around the world. 1.4 billion. NBA, 1.5 billion. NHL, 3.6 billion. Let me tell you why that's huge because the NHL is smaller than all of the other sports that I named above it. So them losing 3.6 billion is huge, which probably leads to why Ed said that they're doing the best at trying to figure out how they want to move forward because they can't afford to lose more money. Remember, the NHL had a terrible lockout just a few years ago where they lost a lot of revenue, a ton of revenue. So now you got the pandemic on back of it, and they're going to be the ones that are going to figure out stuff. So much is being lost in revenue during this time. The product on the court, field, and ice are subpar in some cases, but owners are raising prices across the board to recuperate what has been lost. FedEx Field, $60 for parking. And I don't even want to talk about the ticket prices. When a star players don't play, should the consumers be punished for that? Our wireless cable entertainment bills are steadily increasing, but is the better solution to keep us all safe? Collective bargaining agreements in some of the major sports are expiring, and many are not adjusted completely for unforeseen issues such as global pandemics. The consumer has a lot to say about how sports tracks in the future. Make no mistake, the losses that these leagues have incurred will affect the bottom line of what the average players can make. The owners of teams will not, and I repeat, will not want to give up much. So the losses will be felt more by us as the consumers and the actual players. Lastly, the NCAA is over $500 million in the hole. The resurgence of college football helped them to fill the gap because they actually lost 800 million because of March Madness being canceled. So their total losses from last year were about 1.2 billion. So now you see why the NCAA is quick to make concessions with things, because they got to recuperate their money as well. Now let's take a breath, because even though we are really sick and outraged by COVID, can we really have a world without sports? No, but let's do them correctly. No fans, and create bubbles that use only a few facilities. Each sport could take its own region of the country and eliminate home field advantages. We don't want to destroy the earning potential of players and owners, but something has to give. And that's the thought process that people need to start having. The solution is not to take away all the sport, but to do it in a more positive and safe way, so that people, you're not panning the arena and you got a third of the people without masks on, and you got people that are fighting for positions in all different sports because it's based on revenue. But there's a better way, but we just need the powers to be to track those waters.
Thank you, Professor. That was one of you got so many things in there that I had to pull. No, serious. That was one of the best post takes that I've ever heard. Thank you. I appreciate you, because you were speaking. You were speaking to me, but I had to pull this one out. I had to pull this out because I want to put it on the table real quick. I know we up against it, that we get ready to get up out of here, but I do want to say, because I think this is vital to this. When you said, when star players don't play, should the consumer be punished? Now that one line right there has so much in it, because J3, he is, and when I'm not speaking correctly, I want you to stop me, J3. J3 was speaking that if you're a backup, if you're a taxi squad player, if you came from FedEx, if you in that uniform, then you need to perform.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
But as Professor just mentioned, should we? Is that punishing us, the consumer of this? Meaning, are we getting subpar? Are we getting what we paid $60 to park, and another $300 for tickets, and another $100 for food? Are we getting what we paid for?
No, that's not in this city. Not in this city.
TV timeout. You got a 53-man roster. If someone is sick or someone gets injured, the next person got to step up. What are you paying these players for? You're not paying them to be on the sideline. You paying them to play. So if someone is sick or someone is hurt, they need to step up and get on the field. I'm tired of everybody saying, well, we beat y'all or y'all beat us because we didn't have our best players on the field. Well, why did you draft those players, or why did you hire those players if you didn't think that they were capable of being in that position?
In some cases, you pulling them off the couches too.
But again, you still paying them. They not doing it for free. You paying them. Am I correct?
You're right.
But the question is, that might be fair as a competitive for competitive purpose as far as on the field. But what Professor mentioned, is it fair to us? Would you feel cheated? No, seriously.
Absolutely feel cheated.
If you went down to the FedEx field and you got, you was in there to see, the football team versus, let's say Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't play, Devontae Adams wasn't there because of COVID, everybody gets sick. I understand that. You said someone else has to step up and play, but that's for the competitor. But would you feel cheated? That's the question. Would you feel cheated?
Yeah, because I want to see Aaron.
All I'm gonna ask you this real quick, Ed. Are you paying money to go to any sporting event right now?
Well, I'm not going because I don't feel safe.
It's a yes or no answer. Are you going to pay to see an event right now? And if so,
in person, no. In person, no.
Okay, but if you were, would you be slighted because the star person or the person that you admire is not on the court or the field? Would you feel slighted?
Yes.
Okay, so then you don't go.
I won't go because I don't want.
And that's directly going to affect the owner's pockets, which is going to have this whole cycle continue because they're going to find some way to recoup.
Well, Robert Flowers believes you, J3. He said all 53 players are paid.
Absolutely.
But the trick of the matter is that game time decision crap. I already got my ticket, expecting to see the brother or sister play, and then it's like, oh, they out tonight.
I want to see LeBron James, not Ellis DeWall. Like, come on.
You went there.
He-
Mr. Wall. Mr. Wall.
All right, it's that time, fellas. Go ahead, J3. Kick us off with your final post.
Man, my final post is this. Listen here, y'all. Things are not getting any better. They're only getting worse. So protect yourself, protect your family, stay vigilant, and always know that we're going to be here for you every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Cool?
Okay, Sense. Cool look over there. You know, I'm sure you happy. Michigan is in it. You know, LeBron is not. Yeah, he's not on the COVID list. So
Yeah, I'm quite happy, but in keeping in spirit with J3, just everybody stay safe, stay vigilant. This thing is no joke. Let's stop playing like this is an arcade game where you get like multiple lives. You don't. This COVID thing is real, and like, come on, man, it's time to stop playing. It's time to get serious about your life and other people's lives. So, and go blue.
Hey, real quick, I just want to interject real quick. So BJ said, but most of the time you have already paid to see the starter and not practice squad player. Understand, but if you paying for the season, you rolling that dice. You never know who's going to show up. So keep that in mind when you purchasing them tickets. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Ed.
no, you go. Hey, look, I agree with me and you kind of on a different side of the fence here, but I agree with BJ. But hey, my mother agrees with you, so.
I agree with BJ.
Yeah. Professor, bless us with that final take.
Yeah, mine is a little deeper. We didn't get to touch on it. We touched on mental illness and all those things that touch athletes. But the thing that really continues to touch my heart and crush my soul at times is the CTE that goes on in the NFL. Yeah. They still need to evolve this game, helmets, hits, the way players play, make it more innovative for safety. We have players like Phillip Adams and Vincent Jackson who tragically passed away this year. And I hate to say it, but we have more players that are in the pipeline to do the horrific things that they did. But instead of criticizing the individual, know that the game that they played and loved put them in this medical condition, would cause them to kill and harm themselves. And we really need to shed a much deeper light on it. The movie Concussion started it, and it was a big groundswell. But then since things have kind of went down, and we really need to bring that awareness back. This game is a game that we love, but it has to be made safer because it is destroying individual and family lives. So please, everybody, continue to stay prayed up. I hate to say it, but 2022 is going to bring us some more tragedies that are related directly to CTE, and we got to make sure that we're protecting our players.
For sure.
Well said. Well said. For me, look, chronologically, this is not our final. This is not another year for us. We've passed that point, but this is a final show of the 2021, and it was a doozy. We didn't know what to expect, but everything seems to be predicated on COVID. If we've learned nothing else, that nothing will happen in the world of sports without COVID being involved. But as individuals, and just protect yourselves, protect your families the best you can. However that looks, just use some little common sense. But
Ed, I got one more. I just realized this is the end of the year, and I just want to say I love all of our fans, all of our viewers.
Thank you.
I might have to step away again. Our baby girl will be due in the next couple of weeks.
Yes,
we're gonna bring in 2022, in a real good way. So I know the fellas, they got it locked down, but just wanted to ask you all, keep us, myself, my wife, and our new baby girl in prayer, and we'll continue to do the same for you guys. Thank you.
Oh, we will.
Yes,
we will.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd like to thank all for tuning in this evening. We truly appreciate your time, comments, and energy as we share our positions on sports with you. And tonight was a little different than our normal format, but we just wanted to just reflect on what was important to us and maybe get some of your feedback as well as what was important to you all out there. But we welcome all feedback. Look forward to hanging out with you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. sharp. Just a reminder that you can always download this or any of our previous shows via Facebook, or YouTube, and also listen to our shows on your preferred podcast platform. We also would love for you to like, follow, and or subscribe to any and all of your favorite social media sources. We love shout outs to friends and family. Our Instagram and Facebook are at Positions on Sports. And if you are up in them Twitter streets, and I know most people are because I want to be, I just don't know. I just haven't figured out how to do it.
Twitter fingers.
Come on.
So if you up in them Twitter streets, we are at Positions on SPO1. That's at Positions on SPO1. So please have a great evening, a safe week, and a very happy and healthy new year. This has been the Positions on Sports Talk Show.
Happy New Year.
Hey.
God bless. Y'all take care.